When the pandemic swept through the world, governments unleashed billions in relief funds to keep businesses afloat. Remember when we all thought sourdough starter was our personality? Enter the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, an initiative designed to help struggling companies keep their workers paid. But for some, it became less about paychecks and more about the perfect plan for pilfering. While most Americans were just trying to survive lockdowns, a select few decided to audition for the role of most obvious scammer. Here are the most outrageous cases of PPP loan fraud that'll make you laugh, cry, and seriously question humanity all at once. Before we get started, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Blacklight TV. So, let's kick things off in the Sunshine State. Our first contestant, David T. Hines of Florida, thought it would be smart to claim his business needed millions to survive. Instead of saving jobs, though, I decided to stimulate the luxury goods industry.
That's right, folks. I saved receipts from luxury stores. We're talking Gucci, Louis Vuitton, the kind of shopping spree that would make even the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills blush.
And the kicker? When arrested, the Lamborghini wasn't even parked discreetly. It was his everyday ride. Maybe he thought blending in was optional. Like, oh, I'm just driving my completely normal, everyday Lamborghini to pick up my caviar and diamond-encrusted dog collar. You know, typical Tuesday. Pro tip Dave. Don't flaunt ill-gotten gains at 150 miles per hour on a busy street. It tends to attract the wrong kind of attention. Next up, we're heading to the ATL, where reality TV star Maurice Fayne, aka Arkansas Mo from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, clearly misunderstood the assignment. See, Maurice, the PPP wasn't a become an overnight baller loan.
Instead, I treated it like my own personal monopoly money stash, going on lavish spending sprees that would make even the most seasoned sugar daddy wince. We're talking jewelry, cars, the kind of conspicuous consumption that screams, "Look at me, I'm terrible with money."
The real kicker? He used part of the funds to cover unpaid child support, which honestly might be the only morally sound decision he made during this whole debacle. Maurice, my man, your PPP should have stood for Poor Priorities Payback. Now, let's be real. Who among us hasn't dreamt of throwing a rager with government funds? But our next guest took that fantasy to a whole new level.
LaShonda Kelly here. I didn't waste time pretending to run a legitimate business. Nope. I went straight for the good stuff, throwing the block party of the century. I'm talking open bar, a full buffet, enough confetti to make it rain paper for a week.
When the feds came knocking, surprised to find a rave instead of a struggling small business, neighbors reportedly said, well, that explains the ice sculptures and the pony rides. Her party theme was allegedly go big or go to jail, and boy did she nail it. Spoiler alert, she went big, went to jail. You know what they say, a family full of scammers end up in the slammer. Maybe I made that one up. Either way, that's what happened to Tony, Byron, and Audrey Mallory. This Texas trio decided that fraud was a family affair, exhibiting a level of criminal synergy usually reserved for bank heists in action movies. With Tony as the mastermind, Byron as the muscle, and Audrey, I don't know, handling snacks, they concocted multiple fake businesses, filed bogus loan applications, and for a hot minute were rolling in that sweet, sweet PPP dough. But here's where their heist went from Ocean's 11 to, well, idiocracy. Tony, our aspiring criminal mastermind, couldn't resist bragging about their schemes on social media. Tony, my friend, there's nothing silent about posting your entire fraudulent life online. Mukund Mohan clearly missed the memo that white-collar crime is still, a crime. This wasn't some small-time grifter Mukund was playing in the big leagues, folks. He wasn't content to fake a payroll. He faked entire companies. We're talking websites, fake employees, the kind of elaborate ruse that would make Bernie Madoff proud. When investigators peeked behind the curtain of his business, you know what they found? Empty offices. His scam may have been sophisticated, but it wasn't smart, because the IRS and FBI aren't exactly known for letting $5 million slide. They're like the Terminator of financial crimes. They'll find you, and they audit you. Check your Gap 3s. And now, back to our final contestant. Let's dive into one of the most staggering cases of fraud uncovered during the pandemic. Amir Akil, a name etched in white-collar crime history. Alongside 6 co-conspirators, Akil orchestrated one of the largest PPP fraud schemes ever prosecuted. This Houston-based ring swindled over $20 million in forgivable loans meant to keep businesses afloat during COVID-19. Akil was sentenced to 15 years in prison and ordered to forfeit over $5.5 million. His team submitted 75 fraudulent PPP loan applications, falsifying employee numbers, payroll expenses, and federal tax forms. Akil paid hefty kickbacks to ensure the scheme's success. During a time when businesses were struggling, these fraudsters bought houses, a Porsche, and even a Lamborghini with the stolen funds. The Justice Department seized assets and handed out prison sentences. This case serves as a reminder that justice will catch up. The defendants cashed over 1,100 fake paychecks, amounting to more than $3 million, with proceeds laundered through various channels. Federal agents executed 45 seizure warrants, reclaiming assets bought with ill-gotten gains. While the country grappled with a global health crisis, Akil and his cohorts were busy filling their pockets. Thanks to diligent federal investigators, this billion-dollar bust stands as a powerful example of justice served. Gap 3s. If the pandemic revealed anything, it's that desperation breeds creativity and stupidity. These scammers went big, flashy, and over the top, seemingly forgetting that financial fraud doesn't exactly go unnoticed. The government quickly rolled out the Fraud Enforcement Task Force, and these con artists were caught faster than a Black Friday shopper spotting a PS5 deal. In the end, these scammers remind us of an old saying: crime doesn't pay, especially when you post about it on Instagram. If only they'd spend as much time on business ethics as they did on shopping sprees, they might have avoided the slammer. Now, that's a PPP putting people in prison.